A high-impact snowstorm and icing event is on the way for the central and eastern U.S., where some areas of the Kansas City metropolitan area could pick up over a foot of snow, and some areas in the eastern U.S. could pick up their first 6-inch snowfall since 2020. So let's get into it with the National Weather Service site here. We have winter storm warnings stretching from western Kansas all the way to Virginia, areas that haven't seen significant snowfall in quite a bit, and we'll get into that just a bit. We also have blizzard warnings for central Kansas and the Kansas City, Missouri metropolitan area, as well as ice storm warnings in effect for areas of southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, as well as portions of Kentucky. So let's take a look right now at our current radar with some snow and mixed showers starting to enter the central portion of the United States. This storm is just getting started and it has a long way to go. So I want to take a look at one of our model outputs here. This is the high resolution rapid refresh model, or as we call it, the HRRR. This storm is going to pop out of the Rockies and drag in a bunch of this Gulf moisture, but as it does so, it's going to be bringing in some warmer air aloft. So it's going to be cold at the surface, but warm up top, and that is what causes this pinkish coloration here. That's freezing rain. So it's going to be falling as rain, that precipitation. But once it hits the ground, freezing on impact, that's going to cause slick roads, widespread power outages, and plenty of travel troubles. We also have snow to the north of that freezing rain and a little bit of sleet mixing in there too. So a wintry mess, especially in Kansas and Missouri over the next few hours here. And that wintry mess is going to continue to spread eastwards into the Ohio River Valley, where some areas could pick up upwards of a half an inch of ice as this storm continues to move eastward, as well as some areas in the eastern U.S. Washington, D.C. hasn't picked up 6 inches or more of snow since 2022. Same thing for Baltimore. And for Philadelphia, you have to go back to 2020 for your last 6-inch snowfall. Those long streaks of not a lot of snow may be coming to a close with this storm system, as we haven't seen a lot of snow in the eastern U.S. in a few years. It has been really snow-starved up there in especially the mid-Atlantic. Now, this is just one rendition of what this storm could do, and actually I think that we're going to be dealing with much more of a mess, especially in the Washington, D.C. area. It may not be an all-snow event for you guys. I like this model just a tad better, and it's showing a much different storm. So let's back things up here and go back to right now. This storm pops back out, a lot of that orange, red coloration, whatever you want to call it, spreading through the Ohio River Valley. But as we get into the eastern U.S., starts off as snow there in D.C., but some of that purple starts to mix in, that's sleet, and that could lower your snowfall total potentially below that 6-inch mark. So we could see that streak without a heavy, significant snow event continue in Washington, D.C., but it seems like Baltimore, just a few minutes to the north, it takes about 30 minutes to get from D.C. to Baltimore, going to be in that snowy Sunday. So looking at this current model here, low pressure out there in western Virginia, and it'll kind of swipe through some wraparound snowfall. So even if you do switch over to mixed precipitation, and even some areas, especially in the Carolinas, that aren't going to be seeing any of that wintry mix until that very back end, you could see some post-holiday season, but still festive flakes. So what am I thinking for this storm system? Well, here is my snow total chart here. You can see the deepest color here is this 12 to 24 inch range. Now, we're not going to really get towards 2 feet of snow with this storm. I don't think it has enough, but we could see some areas outside of Kansas City get over 15 inches, maybe even 18 inches of snow as that storm starts to tighten up. It's also going to be spending a lot of time out in the central plains before it gets its act together and starts to march eastward. Wide swath of this pink here, that's 6 to 12 inches, and I have Philadelphia thoroughly in that range, as well as Baltimore. DC, I have you right on the edge. I do think that you're going to be switching over to sleet at some point, and that's going to make this forecast very tricky for you. Not only are you going to have that impact of some slicker roads as those upper level temperatures get above freezing, melt the snow, and then refreeze it back into sleet, you're also going to be having plenty of snow as well, especially on the front side of the storm system, could pick up a quick 4 to 6 inches of snow before switching over to that sleet. So a wintry mess in our nation's capital, that is for sure. New York, I have you on the outskirts in that 3 to 6 inch range, this dark blue color here, and that range is going to be dropping off pretty significantly as you just get to the north. New York City may pick up 3, maybe even 4 inches of snow, but Hartford, Connecticut, probably not even going to see any flakes. So a very sharp contrast in snowfall, especially on the northern side of this storm, and that's just based on the moisture not going to be there in time. With that cold air already in place, this storm is just going to be a bit too far to the south for you guys. Now on the southern edge, you could also see that same quick jump from 6 inches to maybe 3 inches, and that's just going to be purely based on what time you switch over to that mixed precipitation and how long it lasts for. I do think areas like Richmond, Virginia, maybe could pick up 2 to 4 inches of snow before switching over to sleet, and then maybe a little bit on top of that as we get back into snow in that wraparound band. Areas like Cincinnati, Ohio, going to be staying all snow for the most part, but just to the south in Louisville, Kentucky, you'll be picking up over a half an inch of ice. That's going to be weighing down power lines, causing very slick roads and terrible travel conditions, but it's also going to be causing widespread power outages. Those blizzard warnings in Kansas and Missouri, the wind is going to be there post-storm to shake around those power lines that have just been weighed down significantly by all of that ice, and that is going to be causing massive issues in the Ohio River Valley. So this area of darkest red, that is your areas that could see over a half an inch of icing. This medium red color, that's going to be your 1/10 an inch to a half an inch of icing. Still significant, but not worst case scenario. And then if you are in this lightest color of red, pink color here, that is going to be your just a glaze of ice to a 1/10 of an inch. So not going to be your major player, especially in Kansas City where you could pick up some ice, but the main event's going to be snow, and in Richmond, Virginia, where it's probably going to be more sleet than it is going to be icing, but still significant enough to cause some travel troubles in those regions. So a very high impact event, not only with the weather, but also some history as well. We'll see if Baltimore and Philadelphia break those streaks. And for those of you snow lovers in DC, let's pray that you don't have that switch over to sleet and you can get that 6 inch amount. Because it's been a very, very long time. 3 years without 6 inches of snow. That is nothing to brag about. But please stay safe out there, and I'll see you again very soon.